Hello again. Before we go on, there's just time to mention that our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon and Harry Breur. It's performed by Jean-Jacques Perret, who's kindly given his permission for us to use it. And now here's Audrey with the first item of sport.
Southgate endured a difficult start to life in the top flight of the Middlesex County Cricket League as they were beaten by 7 wickets at Twickenham on Saturday. Newly promoted Southgate headed into the campaign optimistic that they could make an impact at the higher level, but they were unable to achieve this in their opening encounter as they were comprehensively outplayed. Although Michael Stevens, who got 39 runs, and Lasith Lakshan, 28, made good contributions for the visitors, they slumped to a 134-9 until Luke Hutton came to their rescue with a fine innings of 48, which enabled them to get up to a final total of 188. But this target did not give Twickenham any problems, with Sean Hicks leading the way with an unbeaten 69 as they raced to 191 for 3 in just 25.4 overs. Enfield also made a disappointing start to their season in Division 2 as they lost by 5 wickets in a low-scoring clash at home for Acton.
Enfield Town's dreams of taking part in the Ryman Premier Division playoffs were crushed for good yesterday afternoon when they lost their appeal against the Football Association's verdict to find them guilty of fielding an ineligible player. The initial FA decision, which was made just 3 days before the end of the season, resulted in Town being deducted 3 points by the Ryman League, which saw them slip from 5th to 7th in the final table. However, Town were adamant that they were innocent in the matter, which dated back to 2 games played by midfielder Aryan Tajbaksh, when he should have been suspended shortly after he joined the club in January, and appealed against the FA verdict. Their appeal was heard on Friday and adjourned over the weekend before a further delay to the verdict on Monday, and Town finally discovered their fate yesterday, with the FA standing by its original decision. The verdict was obviously met with extreme disappointment by Town, but the club have decided not to take the matter any further to enable the playoffs to take place. A club statement said the FA's decision and the appeal outcome are both very disappointing for everyone associated with the club. We await the FA's written reasons for their decision. We would like to thank James Mulholland QC for his work on our behalf. We also wish to take this opportunity to thank all Enfield Town Supporters Society members who responded so positively by donating funds to pursue further appeals as deemed necessary, and also other clubs and supporters for their hundreds of messages of support. In the best interests of the club itself, and in order to avoid further wider uncertainty and inconvenience, not least to clubs involved in the Ryman League Premier Division playoffs, the board has taken the unanimous decision not to take any action that would delay the playoffs any further. Enfield Town's board would like to express the view that this decision sets a dangerous precedent. Clubs taking every precaution when checking the FA's disciplinary record system may be subject to this charge, irrespective of whether or not the FA announces changes or a thorough overhaul of current arrangements. The statement added, the club would have taken exactly the same action once charged by the FA, irrespective of whether or not it had finished the 2014-15 season in a playoff position. The club will now put this unsatisfactory outcome behind us and look forward positively to the 2015-16 season. We wish the teams in the playoffs the best of luck.
This is about rugby. Saracens' Aviva Premiership playoff hopes are in the balance, heading into the final day of the season after they suffered a 24-20 defeat at home to top 4 rivals Exeter on Sunday. The hosts went into the match knowing that victory would confirm their place in the playoffs for a 6th successive year, but a closely fought contest was decided by Thomas Waldrom's 71st minute try as Exeter climbed above Sarries into 4th place on points difference. However, Saracen's point difference is only 3 worse than Exeter's, and with a trip to winless London Welsh to come, Mark McCall's men will be confident of triumphing by a big enough margin to overhaul this. Victory over Welsh could even see Sarries climb up to 3rd if Leicester failed to overcome table-topping Northampton. But Director of Rugby McCall is frustrated that the fate of his side is not entirely in their own hands. "We're hugely disappointed," he said. "You never know what might happen on the last day of the season. We've got a plan to beat London Welsh by as big a margin as we can and score 4 tries. It's terrible that we've got ourselves in this situation and we can't do anything about whatever happens in the other games. We played some good rugby at times, but our goal line defence was not good enough. Each one of Exeter's tries felt like a slow death and inevitable. Chris Ashton and Chris Wiles scored tries for Sarries, both converted by Charlie Hodgson in the first half, while Hodgson and Owen Farrell kicked a penalty apiece. Saturday's clash at London Welsh begins at 3:30.
Frank Buglioni managed to hold on to his European super middleweight title after snatching a draw from his fight against Lee Markham at Wembley Arena on Saturday night. The 26-year-old from Winchmore Hill had been confident of securing victory against his old amateur rival as he attempted to defend the title for the second time. However, the bout proved to be closely contested from the start, with Markham enjoying marginally the better of the early rounds. Buglioni came more into the fight as it progressed and seemed to be landing more shots as the contest headed towards its conclusion, but was unable to do enough to claim the win. The 3 judges scored the fight 96-94 to Buglioni, 96-94 to Markham, and 95-95, resulting in the bout being declared a draw to enable Buglioni to hold on to his title, but he was still frustrated with the outcome. "I am disappointed with the draw," he said. "I did not box as well as I have done in the gym. I caught a lot of punches on my gloves, and I responded with the more solid shots. Hopefully, we can get the rematch on." With both fighters keen for a rematch, promoter Frank Warren admitted that there was an excellent chance that this would happen. "I think a rematch is in order," he said. "I was so pleased at what a great fight it was. They pulled it all together, and I'm sure the fans loved it."
This is a story that we covered a lot last year about Andrew Simu. A man who had to spend 11 months in jail for a crime he did not commit has published a book detailing the years of hell he spent trapped in the bureaucracies of the Greek legal system. Andrew Simu, 26, of Oak Avenue, Enfield, was celebrating the end of his exams with friends on holiday in the Greek resort of Xanthi in July 2007. When he was 18 years old. When he returned home, friends called him to say that Greek police had been showing locals on the island a picture of him, as he was a suspect in the death of Jonathan Hythes, a teenager from Cardiff, who had died after being punched from a stage in a nightclub. Andrew confided in his family, who immediately drafted in a legal team. After months of compiling evidence, police knocked on his door with a European arrest warrant. Despite battling to have evidence heard in Britain, the courts here ruled that no evidence could be submitted and he should face trial in Greece. He was denied bail in Greece and shipped off to a young offenders institution where he was held for 4 months before being transferred to a maximum security prison as soon as he turned 21. No money is put into prisons in Greece, so the conditions were horrible, he said, and he revealed that the worst part of his 8-month nightmare stay in prison was trying to steer clear of the heroin epidemic that had spread throughout the jail. Older inmates were constantly trying to get younger, more vulnerable men to either sell heroin or to take it themselves, he said. I had to do a constant balancing act of keeping close, but not too close, to these people who essentially controlled the prison with their trade. After languishing in prison for almost a year, his trial finally started, only to be adjourned. However, he was granted bail as he was able to stay in his uncle's apartment in Greece. The trial did get underway in the summer of 2011, and he was cleared of manslaughter after 3 months. After studying psychology and marketing at Middlesex University and graduating with a first, Andrew has published a book detailing his experiences. Really, I wanted to write this book to warn people about what can happen and to lobby the government into looking again at the European arrest warrant, he said. Andrew's book is called Extradited and is available to buy on Amazon and in bookstores. So the saga continues.
One romantic couple have made a pilgrimage every year to have their photo taken together at the historic Enfield Mansion, where their wedding reception was held 31 years earlier. Helen and Stan Kiddle were married at Haringey Register Office in 1984, after which the then newlyweds hosted a party for more than 100 guests in the Jacobean mansion Forty Hall in Forty Hill. The couple started going back to Forty Hall the following year to celebrate their wedding anniversary on May the 1st. They didn't take photos on their first anniversary in 1985, but started taking snaps the following year. Mr. Kiddle, 56, recalled, "On our first anniversary we thought, what shall we do? And we wondered what other people do. We thought we'd revisit Forty Hall, and we did it the next year." The pilgrimage became a family tradition, and the couple took their children Joe, 26, and Jenny, 23, when possible, to help mark the day. Pardon me. The couple lived in Edmonton for the first few years of married life before moving to St Albans in Hertfordshire. Mrs. Kiddle, 52, who works as a PA to an orthopaedic surgeon, said they usually ask other day trippers they see in the grounds to take their picture, and added, "People are touched by it. Come rain or shine, we go there. We have occasionally taken a day off from work to go." Mr. Kiddle, who's worked for BT for 40 years, said, "We just stopped someone jogging past. Last year, they enjoyed a celebratory picnic with family and friends to mark their 30th wedding anniversary. Guests included Mr. Kiddle's brother and best man Paul, 54, of Village Road, Bush Hill Park, and his mother Sylvie. And the secret of a happy marriage? Mrs. Kiddle said it's basically give and take, just being tolerant. Her husband said, "I think it's avoiding conflict and avoiding arguments, being interested in each other's lives, but also giving each other space." Their story features in the current exhibition Just Married at the Dugdale Centre in London Road, Enfield Town, until January the 10th, 2016.
A tree has been replanted to commemorate the death of a care worker after it was vandalised. The red oak tree in Conway Recreation Ground, Palmer's Green, was planted in commemoration of Norma Morris, a care worker who was killed 30 years ago. Miss Morris, who used to live in Conway Road, adjacent to the small green space, was murdered following a call-out in Haringey to a man who was threatening to commit suicide. The tree had been planted some years ago as a celebration of her work as a social worker, but had been vandalised shortly after its planting. However, the Friends of Conway Rec raised enough money to replant the tree and put a plaque at its base commemorating her life and service. More than 30 people who knew Miss Morris attended the event. Dr. Fred Clark, who lives on the road and the brains behind the replant, said, "Planting the tree and putting a plaque on it is more than an appreciation of a social worker who died tragically on duty. It's a tribute to all of them who carry out such a stressful and difficult job." The group has recently come together to help reform the park. Keith Weller, a member of the group, said, "It was great to see many people supporting a worthy cause to have the tree replanted in honour of Norma, who was a real local hero." Councillors Bambos Sherrilambos and Daniel Anderson also showed their support. "We've been making improvements to the grounds, and this is a fitting gesture to Norma and her family."
A 16-year-old boy who caused unnecessary suffering to a puppy after throwing it headfirst into a bucket of water in Edmonton has been fined and banned from owning a pet. The teenager, who cannot be named for legal reasons, was sentenced on Thursday at Stevenage Youth Court. He was disqualified from owning or having any animal in his care or control and ordered to pay £1,250 towards kennel fees. The dog, a young Staffordshire Terrier, will now be found a new home by police. Officers from Enfield carried out a search warrant at an address in Oaklands Avenue, Edmonton, on September the 3rd last year. They had received reports about a puppy being launched headfirst into a bucket of water. The boy was arrested at the scene and bailed until late October. On December the 10th, 2014, he was charged with failing to prevent the causing of unnecessary suffering to an animal under the Animal Welfare Act 2006 and bailed to appear at Highbury Corner Magistrates Court on December the 29th, 2014. PC Hazel Edgar from Enfield Safer Parks Unit said, "This is an excellent example of partnership work between Safer Parks Police, the Status Dogs Unit, Canine Welfare Officer, the RSPCA and the MP's vet. We received numerous complaints from the public and feel the court sentence reflects the seriousness of the offence committed. We are happy the dog will go to a new loving home."
A nursery has managed to raise a three-figure sum for Great Ormond Street Hospital. Amanda Blackburn, who manages Barley Barn Childcare in Browning Road, Enfield, was inspired to put on a summer fete in the grounds of the nursery on Friday. Her young 2-year-old son, Lenny, was treated at Great Ormond Street. And when she learned that some of her charges in the nursery had also been cared for in the hospital, she was determined to do everything she could to help the doctors and nurses at the hospital. "They really are so good," she told the advertiser. "There are beds that allow parents to stay with their children in hospital, which really does make such a difference, and the staff do a fantastic job, and I wanted to find a way to thank them." The final total for the day came in at £100, and as well as favourites, including a competition to guess how many sweets were in a jar and a bouncy castle, youngsters were thrilled that two particularly icy superstars turned up to open the event. The star attractions were Queen Elsa and Princess Anna from Frozen, who opened the fete for us, Amanda revealed. However, she admitted that due to pressing engagements of state, two parents had dressed up as the characters, as the sisters themselves could not be spared from their regal duties elsewhere. Amanda also wrangled a Tottenham pennant signed by the entire Spurs team, which was auctioned off to the highest bidder and won by very grateful Harry Wolfe, son of one of the directors of the nursery. And after the success of the fundraising event, Amanda has her sights set on raising even more cash for the good cause. We are looking at doing 2 fundraising events a year for the charity, she added.
The woman who spent her school days in Palmer's Green travelled 3,000 miles to attend a special reunion at the weekend. Lynn Brown, 64, journeyed from her home near Toronto in Canada to join former classmates in celebrating Palmer's Green High School's 110th anniversary. The school in Hoppers Road opened its doors in 1905, and Lynn, whose maiden name was Bentham, was among 50 old girls who returned last week. She left the school in 1966. Lynn told the Advertiser, "It's very special to be back. I have lots of really good, happy memories. It's been lovely to see the new uniform, hear the new school song, and meet the head girls." Events including a cocktail and canapé evening, a coffee and cake morning, and a Sunday lunch took place over the weekend. Some of the former pupils who attended left the school in the 1940s and 1950s. Lynn, who has lived in Canada for almost 40 years, and who is a mother of 4, was there with her husband Martin. Her favourite subjects as a girl? Languages, she said. "I learned Latin and French, which really helped my work in the airline business. The uniform in my day was green and pink, and we had 3 special hats, a beret for rainy days, a boater for the summer, and a winter hat. We had to wear them whenever we were out of school, and we'd be in trouble if we were caught without."
Campaigners fighting to save a historic pub have organised a demonstration. Members of the Save Green Dragon pub were a protest outside Enfield Borough Council Civic Centre in Silver Street, Enfield, as a protest against the rejection to make the pub an asset of community value. The 300-year-old pub in Green Lanes, Winchmore Hill, is a landmark in the area, and the campaign has gathered more than 4,000 signatures to keep it as a pub. However, the public house closed earlier this year, and the campaign to reopen it had a setback when an application to make it an asset of community value was turned down. Last week, Aldi released a statement to deny that it had bought the site from Green Lanes Investments, with plans to open one of its supermarkets. In a statement on the campaign's Facebook page, Mike McLean, the founder of the campaign, said, "We know from your messages that you share our anger and frustration at this situation, and we have decided, therefore, to hold a demonstration to call for a reversal of this terrible decision and to demand that the voice of the community is heard. The demonstration will take place at 6 p.m. today, time to coincide with the appointment of the new mayor of Enfield." So I'm afraid we've missed that. I think so anyway.
New laws have been used for the first time to prosecute a woman who sublet her home illegally. Former London and Quadrant tenant Yasmin Meyer of Marley Gardens, Waltham Abbey, pleaded guilty to illegally subletting her L&Q flat in Lena Crescent, Edmonton, as well as admitting other charges in relation to benefit fraud. She was ordered to undertake 250 hours of unpaid work, as well as receiving a sentence of 16 months imprisonment, suspended for 2 years. Unlawful subletting of a social housing property became a criminal offence under the Prevention of Social Housing Fraud Act 2013, and Enfield Borough Council is the first local authority in the UK to prosecute someone. Investigators from L&Q became suspicious that Ms. Meyer was not living at her flat in Lena Crescent. They contacted their counterparts in Enfield Council, and a joint investigation was undertaken. Not only was she found to be subletting the flat illegally, but a benefit fraud to the value of £42,000 was also discovered, following Meyer's failure to declare income from employment, as well as savings held in an undeclared bank account. Councillor Andrew Stafford, Cabinet Member for Finance, said Enfield Council has broken new ground by being the first local authority to use this new legislation to crack down on a benefit fraudster. Those that profit from subletting social housing are criminals, so I am delighted we have been successful bringing this criminal to book. Councillor Ahmet Oykiner, Cabinet Member for Housing and Estate Regeneration, said, subletting a council property denies housing to those most in need in the borough, and also lines the pockets of fraudsters who often let to unsuspecting people who can then find themselves homeless when the fraud is discovered. Enfield Council regularly makes checks to ensure subletting doesn't happen in our borough, and if anyone should suspect this is taking place, they should report it straight away.
Ask the majority of workers what they think of their boss, and the reply, predictably, is likely to be none too complimentary. But staff of an Enfield firm have shown they appreciate theirs more than most, after she was adjudged overall winner in a competition to find the best boss in North London. Alison Jackson, Global Recruitment Manager at telecommunications company Metaswitch in Church Street, Enfield, won the title in the Best Boss of the Year awards. Employees across Enfield, Barnet, Haringey and Hertfordshire were encouraged to nominate directors, managers and supervisors who were outstanding, motivational and inspirational for the awards. Alison, who was also winner in the company's 101 plus staff category, heads a team of 5 recruiters in the UK and 3 in America. She was nominated by Beth Gorman, one of her team, who wrote, "My boss is an all-round star. She constantly helps me in both my work and private life to make sure that I am happy. She's always coming up with ideas to motivate colleagues and myself, and often works beyond her contracted hours to make sure we have an even workload." Among the judging panel was former Enfield North MP Nick Dubois, who lost his seat in last week's general election. A delighted Alison said, "I want to thank Beth for nominating me. Both trophies have pride of place on my desk."
Inspiration from Leah Bell's portrayal of ageing cleaner turned sex chat worker Gladys in the raucous comedy Dirty Dusting came from an unlikely source: her mother. "Truth be told, I'm wearing my mother's clothes as the character," laughs the 62-year-old stage actress who directs the show, as well as starring in it with TV's Benidorm's Chrissy Rock and Dolores Porretta. Dirty Dusting follows the lives of 3 cleaning ladies on the verge of redundancy who make a spur-of-the-moment decision to start a sex chat phone line to earn some money. You don't expect that age group to really be discussing sex. You certainly don't think they have it, said Leah, who grew up in a rough area of Newcastle. And therein lies the parallel to her mother, who Leah says belongs to a generation reticent about the topic. Her attitude would be, if she'd been talking to you in a normal voice and anything to do with that came up, it would go into a whisper, remembers Leah, whose mum saw the show and thought it was very funny. It is this dynamic which makes Dirty Dusting, packed full of raunchy humour, so hilarious, explains Leah. Leah's character, the kind that's been married forever and a day, finds herself in totally uncharted waters with the saucy material she's expected to repeat over the phone. But the panto star admits she would also be at a loss in the same situation. "Let's just say I wouldn't know what to say now. I just read the script," she chuckles. "I take my hat off to them," she said. "It can't be easy, but you could do it while knitting at the same time." Written by Ed Waugh and Trevor Wood, the show was first premiered in 2003, and Leah says the current production has been on tour for 2 years with no signs of stopping just yet. It's on at the Millfield Theatre, Silver Street, Edmonton, on Saturday, May the 23rd at 7:45 p.m. You can get details at 020-8807-6680 or on the web at mildfieldtheatre, one word, .co.uk.
A reenactment will be held to mark 800 years since the signing of the Magna Carta. Events will take place at Chaseside Memorial Gardens, Enfield, on Monday, June the 15th, with a competition for the best Magna Carta-themed photo, drawing or poem. On Saturday, July the 11th, local poet John Murray will host an evening of poetry and music at Forty Hall in Forty Hill. The peace treaty was signed on June the 15th, 1215, to end the conflict between King John and his barons, who were in revolt. It was signed at Runnymede in Surrey. Councillor Achilles Georgiou, Deputy Leader of Enfield Borough Council, said, "The Magna Carta is such an important historical event that at Enfield Council we really want to bring heritage alive for residents. We hope that these exciting events, all based on the signing of the Magna Carta, will do this."
Well, we've reached the end of our programme for this week. Don't forget, your reader's representative, Diane Jersey, is on 020-8805-6578 if you need any help with the talking newspaper. And please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet, and return it to us as soon as possible so we can send out the next edition. And that will be with you in 1 week's time. It'll be edition 2001. So thanks for being with us from me, Malcolm, Elizabeth, Katherin, Audrey, and Jason. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.